While KTM's factories in Austria have come to a halt, their Indian partners are keeping the orange spirit alive. The new dual sport Enduros, the 125 Enduro R and 390 Enduro R are here, and in this review you'll find out what these bikes are capable of, how they differ from their supermoto siblings, and what their launch means for the approaching competition from Japan. KTM is undoubtedly going through tough times, but in such a large corporation there are always a few gears turning. The same applies to their Indian partner Bajaj, who continues to manufacture KTM's small displacement models. Following the introduction of the A1 and A2 licensed 125 and 390 SMCR supermotos, KTM's next move is to unveil these dual sport Enduros, built around a Duke engine with a new chassis, extended suspension travel and serious enduro wheels. These bikes position themselves below the successful 690 Enduro R. Let's take a closer look at the new models. The design is sleek, functional and nearly identical to the supermotos already presented. The technical specifications are also largely the same. Both models are powered by the new LC4C engine generation, C standing for compact. In the 390 Enduro R, this engine produces 45 horsepower at 8,500 RPM, while the 125 Enduro R delivers 15 horsepower at 10,000 RPM, making it A1 compliant. Concerns about KTM's reliability issues shouldn't extend to these small LC4C engines, as they've already been proven in the 390 Duke and 390 Adventure. The maintenance intervals are reasonable too, with servicing required every 10,000 kilometers and valve checks every 20,000 kilometers. The engine is housed in a newly developed two-part steel trellis frame specifically designed for both supermoto and enduro models. It also features a 9-liter metal fuel tank and a WP suspension setup based on the Gen 3 platform. The Duke chassis has undergone significant revisions for off-road use, including changes to the steering head angle. Both the 125 and 390 Enduro R offer impressive suspension travel of 230 mm front and rear, series numbers for A2 licensed bikes. On the 390 Enduro R, you can adjust both damping and rebound on the front suspension, while the rear allows for rebound and preload adjustment. However, the 125 Enduro R lacks these features and only offers preload adjustment on the rear shock, reflecting its lower price point. In terms of braking, Weber brakes provide stopping power with a 295 mm front disc and an axial 2-piston caliper paired with a 240 mm rear disc. This setup marks one of the biggest differences compared to the supermotos, which feature a larger 320 mm front disc with a radially mounted caliper optimized for street use. Aside from these differences, most technical specs are nearly identical when comparing the supermoto and enduro models side by side. There are slight variations in the steering head angle, a minimal difference in trail and a 22 mm shorter wheelbase on the supermotos. However, the suspension travel remains the same at 230 mm front and rear. As for the wheels, the Enduro R models stand out with a 21-inch front and 18-inch rear configuration. This setup raises the bike's overall height, giving the Enduro R models more ground clearance and a 3 cm higher seat height of 890 mm. The off-road tire dimensions are 90-90-21 at the front and 140-80-18 at the rear. With these dimensions, riders have access to a wide range of off-road tire options. In the photos we've seen, the bikes are fitted with Mitas Enduro Trail Plus tires, but according to official specifications, the stock tires will be Metzeler Karoo 4, a solid enduro tire. Let's move on to the electronics. The cockpit has been redesigned with updated controls and a 4.2-inch TFT display that includes a USB-C port and smartphone connectivity. The 390 Enduro R features traction control and Bosch dual-channel ABS. Interestingly, the 390 Enduro R remembers the last ride mode used, meaning that even after turning the ignition off, it can remain in off-road mode with the rear ABS deactivated. This is a rare and convenient feature, as many bikes reset ride modes when turned off. The 125 Enduro R, while lacking ride modes, also features an off-road ABS mode, which it reportedly remembers as well. Both models cater not only to A1 and A2 beginners, but also to more experienced riders. The traction control system can be fully deactivated, and the ABS, including for the front wheel, can also be switched off entirely, enabling serious off-road performance. The bikes have undergone numerous detailed updates. Much of the platform has been newly developed around the 125 or 390 Duke engines. For instance, there's a new underfloor exhaust, and the bikes are compliant with Euro 5+ emission standards, which required adjustments to the injection system and cylinder head. Even the swing arm has been revised. For those interested in all the technical details, check out the written report linked in the video description. Here in the video, I think we've now covered the most important aspects. But to wrap things up, there's perhaps one last point worth mentioning, maybe even the most critical one, not just in relation to these KTM bikes, but really for the entire class of motorcycles. For example, under the Supermoto video, many of you already expressed your frustration with the weight of the new bikes. The 125 Enduro R weighs 152 kilograms ready to ride, while the 390 Enduro R comes in at 159 kilograms. And at first glance, it's easy to make some unflattering comparisons to other supermotos or enduros. Even KTM's own 690 Enduro R weighs about the same as the 390, but has nearly twice the power. However, we shouldn't rush to judgment. There are reasons behind this. Sure, the stringent emissions regulations and modern standards certainly don't make lightweight construction any easier, but I think the bigger reason for the extra weight is simply the basic rule of the A2 license class. It stipulates a maximum of 0.2 kilowatts, 0.27 horsepower per kilogram. That means with 48 horsepower, the maximum allowed for the A2 class, an A2 bike has to weigh at least 177.8 kilograms. With 45 horsepower, like the 390 Duke, the minimum weight would be about 165 kilograms. So the 390 Enduro R, when fully fueled, essentially has no choice but to fall into this range. So they really can't make it any lighter, and it's a bit unfair when you compare it to older Enduros, which often had similar or even identical power outputs but were much lighter. The same issue applies, for example, to the recently announced new edition of the Suzuki DR-Z. Similar criticism has already appeared under videos about that model. This comparison between the new KTM Enduro R models and the Suzuki will definitely be exciting. For example, the KTM costs 6,999 euros in Austria and 6,299 euros in Germany. The 125 cubic centimeter model is priced at 5,600 euros and 5,500 euros respectively. And for the 390 at around 7,000 euros or closer to 6,500 euros in Germany, that's significantly cheaper than the rumored price of the Suzuki. On the other hand, the Japanese engine might offer a bit more low-end punch, making it potentially better suited for enduro use. However, KTM does offer a 6-speed transmission, while Suzuki, for reasons I can't quite understand, seems intent on sticking with their long-criticized 5-speed gearbox even in the new DR-Z 4S. You can see how this comparison will be really interesting. At least we won't have to wait long for the KTM 125 and 390 Enduro R models, as they're expected to be available in the next weeks. And that wraps up this first look at the new models. What do you think about the new KTMs? As interesting as the Suzuki DR-Z, let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, leave me a like. It really means a lot to me. Also, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss any news or reviews from the motorcycle world in 2025. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Take care and goodbye.